So let's get underway. I'm sure more people will join, but as we have about 90 minutes to spend with Lisa, and I'd like to introduce her. And before I do, I will just say that this is probably about the 120th quarterly all hands meeting that the CEO Roundtable has had. It was started, the Roundtable was started in 1996 by Lauren Carlson, who we just lost in this spring, if you didn't know that. Lauren was a wonderful, wonderful guy and started this back in 96. I was fortunate enough to be able to take it over from him about 8 years ago now. And one of the first people he introduced me to was Lisa Manning. And he said, you've got to know Lisa and you've got to know what she does. And so we spent a little bit of time together, and Lisa's been a great friend of the Roundtable and has helped many of our members implement the entrepreneurial operating system. She's one of their top, and I always forget, Lisa, whether it's an integrator or an
That's because the
implementer.
terms are so confusing. I'm actually an implementer.
Implementer, that's
The
right.
integrator is kind of the COO kind of role. Yeah.
Is the opposite of the visionary. So
Very confusing. Yeah.
Lisa's been operating in that capacity for a long time, and as I said, has helped many of our members implement the entrepreneurial operating system. As you can imagine, we have a pretty large cohort of people wanting to talk to our group, and I try to curate the people that we do let in the door, and Lisa's the first one on that list. She's always brought value. She's always been very generous with her time and her experience, and has helped a lot of our folks. She's even hosted one of our events at her beautiful home in Carlisle. So when Lisa said that she was investigating a new program, uh, I think it rose from her finding out that people that she was dealing with EOS, their number one issue was sales. And she's found a program that addresses that issue, and it's called Outgrow. And so I've heard a little bit about it, but I'm looking forward to hearing more in detail about what Outgrow is and how it can help us get more consistent and better sales. And seem to be having trouble talking this morning, so I'm going to shut up and I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, who never has that kind of trouble. So, Lisa, take it away and tell us about Outgrow.
Thank you, Scott. It's so difficult to sit here and listen to you say these things about me. You're so kind. And um, I've been very grateful to know you all these years. It's very sad to lose Lauren. And I knew Lauren for a long time. Very sad to lose Lauren, but super grateful that he introduced me to you, Scott. It's been a great knowing you all these years. So I see some familiar faces. It's good to see you folks. Glad you're able to make the time to join this today. And for those of you who don't know me, um, for decades before, as we were talking about romper room, I'm dating myself here. But for decades before I became an EOS implementer, I worked with struggling companies or companies doing super high growth. And about a decade, maybe about 12 years or so ago, one of the solutions actually that my husband introduced me to, he was a member of CEO Roundtable like 20 years ago or something. And he's the one that actually heard about EOS as a proven system. And he introduced it to me. And once I learned about what it was and I saw how impactful it was for the small entrepreneurial business, that's when I chose to become an implementer. And this is about a decade or so ago. Um, and what I like about it is it's a proven system, right? So you're not trying to figure it out. There's somebody that's already spent a whole bunch of people that spent a whole lot of time figuring out things that work and taking the best tools that are out there to help the entrepreneurial business. So don't try and recreate the wheel. A bunch of people have, come up with this formula, and as much as possible, try and follow that formula. And, it's a really good program. But like Scott said, so many of my clients were struggling with revenue. And it was interesting. It was actually my clients that turned me on to Outgrow and to Alex Goldfayn. And they said, Lisa, you have to go meet Alex and you have to become Outgrow certified. And I'll be honest with you, at the time when I had a bunch of people come out to the EOS conference, about 16 of my clients, and they were all talking about, and I thought, okay, first of all, I've never heard of Outgrow. Secondly, I don't know, you're asking me to get certified in something else. And, at this point in my life, I'm not sure I'm interested in doing that. But, they made such a compelling case that I went and spent time with a creator, and I joined a cohort and I experienced it myself. And I went, okay, wow. Now I'm excited. I'm really excited about this. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to share this with you guys today. And please feel free to ask questions. Can I please ask that you guys help me and interact a tiny bit during this? I'm gonna need a couple of volunteers. It'll be really simple and easy, but I would love it if we had some courageous people here. It would really be helpful. So nothing major, just a couple of questions. All right? You guys ready to get going?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me start. Bear with me for 2.5 seconds. I love the beginning of getting on the start. Everybody, like, is that working? Everybody can see my slide deck. Are we good? Okay, wonderful. Okay, so Outgrow is a proven system for revenue growth. And this is all about how to add 15 to 30% organic revenue growth in any economy. And Outgrow generates 15 to 30% revenue growth on top of whatever growth you're already having. And if who knows what's going to happen with the economy, what's going to be going on or whatever. But let's say things, the economy is struggling over this next who knows what period of time. The answer is going to end up being you're going to have to take market share if you want to grow, right? And so this is a competitive advantage. And I'll tell you more about it. Let's get going. So I'm Lisa Manning. I am a certified outgrow advisor. This is the name of the book that tells you about how to run the outgrow system. Every single thing I'm going to tell you about today, you already know. So aren't you glad you took the time to come to something you already know? I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. And everything also is in this book, Outgrow. So feel free to go out and get that book, listen to the book. I'm always here if you have any questions. I'll have my contact information at the end of this. So Outgrow was created by Alex Goldfayn, and he's written 7 books. 3 of them are Wall Street Journal bestsellers. You might recognize some of these, like maybe, for example, Pick Up the Phone and Sell, and his most recent one, Outgrow. So the tactics, scripts, etc., are in this book, Pick Up the Phone and Sell. Outgrow, the book Outgrow, was designed really more for, let's say, leadership teams on how to run the system. And this would be, so for example, if I was working with a team, I tell the customer facing people to focus on this book. The leadership team, I would also encourage them to read this book. Okay. So there are 3 simple truths that you already know. Number 1, phone calls are more effective than emails. We like to say emails are where things go to die. Referrals are the best way to get new business. And you cannot communicate less and sell more. But knowing versus doing are 2 very different things. We might know we should be asking for referrals, but do we always ask for referrals? Probably not. I know I didn't. I used to joke that I would break into hives before I asked my clients for referrals. For whatever reason, it was a super difficult thing for me to do. And this is a little bit of the mindset work I'm going to talk about later. But we know this is the right thing to do, but we don't always do it. Okay. So this is the difference between knowing and doing. And what I'm going to ask you is, as you listen to this today, what are you going to do when you walk out of this session? What are you going to do? What's going to be different? And maybe you guys can take some notes for yourself along the way about What do you think you're going to do when you walk out of the session today? So, like I said, you already know. So, what are you going to do? 2/3 of revenue growth work is mindset. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later on because it is about mindset. I can tell you all these tactics in the world and to do this and use this script and do this step and all that. But so much of the work is mindset. Remember how I said my mindset really struggled with asking for referrals, and I had to change my mindset. I know you guys probably hate this term head trash, right? I use it a lot, but we all have this head trash that keeps us from doing the things we know work. And that's why 2/3 of the work we do in Outgrow is around changing your mindset. One other thing that's helpful when you think about doing maybe some things that are uncomfortable is for each of you to think about who is it that you do, who are you doing this work for? What's your why? Because a lot of times, if you're entering into doing something that might be more challenging for you, why? Why are you doing it? Are you doing it to put food on your table? Are you doing it for your family? Are you doing it to retire? Are you doing it for your employees? Are you doing it for your community? And always keeping that front of mind. Why? Why? Who do you work for? So, Outgrow installs mindsets and behaviors that create 15 to 30% predictable annual sales growth. Predictable. Okay. That means sales growth that you can plan around. Salespeople plus Outgrow. So in this particular example, this is a company that started Outgrow. And as an example of one particular salesperson, pre-Outgrow was averaging 43,000 a month, post-Outgrow averaging 78,000 per month. And in another graph, this is an example of these are years, a company's, seasonal revenue up, down, up, down. But as you look at these years, there really wasn't any growth. But then starting Outgrow, here's a kickoff. This is what revenue starts to do. All right. So the difference between this and this is sales that happened to them versus sales they created, right? Said another way, this is reactive selling versus proactive selling. Outgrow is proactive selling versus sales that are happening to you, people calling in. They're coming to you maybe with an RFP or request. That's more reactive selling, taking orders, things like that, versus being proactive, which is what Outgrow is. It's proactive selling. So Outgrow does three things. Number one, it expands wallet share. It's selling more to your current customers. This is the name of the game. We know this is the easiest way to sell. It's way easier to expand an existing account than it is to get a new logo, right? Number two, we want to sell to past customers, dormant customers, small customers, right? And number three, bring on additional customers. I call that new logos. That's hard. Isn't it harder to get new logos? Maybe you're spending all this money on, marketing or LinkedIn Navigator or Knowledge Net. I don't know all of these other tools that are out there, but it can be really expensive to generate new leads, really expensive to generating new customers. It's a lot easier to focus on number one, right? And so really that's our biggest priority. It does all three things, but why not start on the easiest ones, right? 1 and 2 and 3. But again, it does all three things. So, and said in simple, very simple. Remember I said Outgrow is a proven system. So a system would run a weekly cadence. So every week, high level, I'm going to talk about a little bit more about this later on. There's 5 steps in a week. And the 5 steps quickly are: step 1, you assign actions to all your customer facing people. Number 2, they go do them. 3, they log them. 4, you get powerful data and analytics. And 5, you share success stories and recognition. So it is a predictable system you can plan around. Why is it predictable? Because in growth work, we simply swing the bat because we know the batting averages, right? And this is the batting averages. We have the statistics in Outgrow. It's statistically based. And we know the batting average. So for example, 2 out of 3 voicemails followed up by a text message communicate back. So for every, 3 voicemails you leave, if you follow it with a text message right afterwards, about 66% of the people respond. But guess what? If you just leave a voicemail and you don't follow it up by a text, guess how many people respond? 22%. So if you do nothing else after today's session, maybe this is one of the things you do. Every time you leave a voicemail, you follow it up by a text. Okay, that's the batting average. Here's an example of maybe a voicemail that you would leave. This is how simple this is. Okay. Hi, Scott. It's Lisa. I was thinking about you the other day because I was talking with a customer and they reminded me of you. They're doing some really great work with me that I think would work really well for you also. Let's talk about that and catch up and hear the latest in your world. That's just an example of a simple voicemail you can leave. But then you follow it up with the text because that's how people choose to respond most likely. Nothing more than this. Per my voicemail, how's Tuesday or Wednesday at 1? Keep it simple in the text. Very simple, okay? So again, the big difference is if you just leave a voicemail, you only get 22% of the people responding. If you leave the voicemail with the text, 66% of the people respond. So let me ask you guys, hold that thought. So, and here's a very simple call. So let's say they answer the phone, right? You could do something like this. This is a very simple 3-step call mechanics in any call you're having with an existing customer. This could be a prospect, and so on and so forth. Three pieces to it. First one, open and catch up. I was thinking about you. How's your family, right? You're going to start with a conversation like that. Secondly, you're going to shift to the business. What do you have going on that I could help you with? An RDYK is a reverse did you know question, which I'm going to teach you a little bit more in a little bit. So a reverse did you know question is something like, what are you buying from my competition that I could help you with? Did you know we can help you with X or Y? What else do you need quoted? That's the business part. And then pivoting to either the sale or the next thing, commitment or conversation, right? And so, and by the way, at a high level, a reverse did you know question is, what are you buying? See, you're starting with a what. And a did you know question is, did you know, where you're listing things that you sell? Again, I'm going to share more about it because what I know in EOS is you have to hear it 7 times to hear it for the first time. So I'm trying to plant the seed and I'm going to say more about it in a few minutes. But after you're having this conversation, you never want to get off the phone without pivoting to something. And the pivot usually starts with maybe the word when. So a pivot to the sale would be something like, when would you like to get together to sign the papers? When would you like to schedule the demo? When could I expect that order from you? But if it's not ready and you're just moving things along a pipeline, you want to pivot with something like, when would you like to speak next? When do you want me to follow up with you? And be very concrete. Ideally, when would you like to speak next? You're scheduling it right then and there while you're on the phone, okay? So this is when I'm gonna ask you guys, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second because I would like somebody to volunteer. When is the last time you got a proactive call from a partner or supplier when nothing was wrong? Okay, so what I'm asking for is I want you to think back to maybe a supplier or vendor. And I want you to think about when was the last time one of them called you when nothing was wrong, not when they, something's not working. And they said, hey, how you doing? How's your family? Let's catch up. What do you got working on? Or maybe what are you working on? I might be able to help you with. Would somebody please raise their hand and volunteer to tell me about a call they got like that? Please be brave. I know you can do it.
I guess maybe I can
Oh,
go.
thank you so much. Would you tell us about that
I'll
call?
take it for the team.
I
No, yeah,
really appreciate it. I wish I had a prize to give you.
there you go.
If you
That
were
would
in the room with me, I would definitely give you something. Definitely. So assume a virtual book or something.
Yeah. No, we have for our ERP system, we have NetSuite, Oracle NetSuite. So they reached out to me 2 weeks ago when we already have an account manager, and he was apparently trying to help this account manager, and he just reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, trying to introduce," and I didn't know what he was up to, and the call was like quick 10-15 minutes or something like that, but it was like, to me, I felt that he gathered a lot from me, what we are doing and how we are doing. I'm pretty sure it will come back to me at the renewal time in some fashion. So that's
Right.
an experience.
So we just called out of the blue when nothing was
Yeah.
wrong. Right? Then he checked in on you. How are you doing? How's your family?
Yep.
Okay, so you got this call 2 weeks ago, right? About
Yes.
where were you when you got the call?
I was in my office.
Were you standing or sitting?
Probably standing, because most of the time I'm standing.
Okay. And were you on your headset like that, or were you holding a phone, or
No,
were
he
you on
called my
speaker?
cell phone.
You called your cell phone.
Yeah.
Did you answer it on speakerphone or on an earbud? Hold it.
It actually no, I picked up the call because it had that Oracle number,
Yeah.
as it was an unknown number, but it said Oracle, so I kind of picked it up.
So you picked it up. And did
Yep.
you hold it up to your ear, or did you have earbuds on or something? Or
If it's my
speakerphone?
cell phone, I hold it up my ear.
You hold it up to your ear. Okay. Do you remember, was it light or dark when you got that call? You're in the
It was,
office you're in now?
yes, correct.
Okay.
It
Was
was
it,
around this time.
it was around this time during the day. And do you remember, was it raining or not raining?
No, it was not.
It was not raining. Okay. So tell me about all the emails you got that day. Go.
I have no clue. I have no recollection of that.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. So we think everybody's calling, and they're not. Email is where sales stuff goes to die. So you can volunteer your email into the trash box, or you could pick up the phone and call, right? This is proactive calling. And, you guys, the rest of you, as you're thinking about this, maybe you think about the last time a supplier called you when nothing was wrong, just to check in and say, hey, how's your family? How you're doing? This is relationship work, right? Okay. Thank you so much for being my guinea pig. And so we have our first brave person of the day. I really appreciate it. Let's go back. All right. So I run my business on 3 calls a day. And ideally, when you're going to do making 3 proactive calls a day, that may be challenging. So what do we say? Eat the frog first. I think it's Mark Twain that says that. Eat the frog first. Do your hardest thing first thing in the morning. And if you have to do 2 of those, eat the biggest frog first. Okay. So as I said, actually, no, I don't think I really taught you what a did you know question is yet. But a did you know question is something like, did you know we also sell blank? Did you know we also do this? Did you know we also do that? And for every 5 times you ask a did you know question, one of them will eventually close. So I'm going to ask for another volunteer, please. And somebody that has more than one product or service, can I ask for a volunteer, please? We got one. Oh, thank you so much, Emma. So Emma, I'm a customer and I would like you to ask, if you may, just tell me what it is you sell. Did you know we do this? Go ahead.
Okay. So we're a high-end boutique catering company that customizes each menu for each of our clients. Not everyone knows we also have a beverage department and customize not only signature cocktails, but wine and certain liquors and everything. So I couldn't, because we're Capers Catering, they might not know that. And so we could say, Did you know we also have a boutique beverage department and would be happy to customize drinks for your clients?
Awesome. Can you give me a second thing you do? Did you know we do customize?
Did
Yeah.
you know we also have recently invested in all new China glassware and silverware so that we can be more competitive with our rentals?
Okay. To what else do you sell?
Um, did
Or
you
you
know we
could
can
say,
also
okay.
help you with your tenting, flowers, dance floors, invitations,
Oh,
party
wow. So
favors?
tenting, dance floor, invitations, whatever. So I don't even know how many things you just listed there, but let's pretend you listed 5. Did you know we do tents? Did you know we do linens? Did you know we do custom beverage, right? For every 5 times your person asked one of those, did you know we do blank? How long do you think it took Emma to say that? Less than 30 seconds, let's say, folks? Maybe 30 seconds? So for every 5 times somebody says those things, did you know blank, blank, blank? One of them will eventually close. That's what we call a did you know question. That's what we call swinging the bat. So for every 5 times somebody asks that, one of those closes. Emma, thank you so much for being a volunteer. Now, I'm going to tell you all this right now because I know Emma. I also know Capers Catering. And if you guys don't know Capers Catering, they are the best caterers I've ever used in my entire life. Amazing. So I'm gonna do a shout out for Emma because
Thank
they're
you,
so
Lisa.
amazing. Yeah, they do small events, they do big events. It's amazing. So
It's
thank you.
fun.
It's so awesome. I got Emma to volunteer, and I swear this wasn't a plan. All right, thank you, my dear. I appreciate that. Let me ask, who has multiple salespeople? Raise your hand. Who has multiple salespeople? Oh, thank you so much. So how many salespeople do you have?
6.
6. All right, I'm going to do some math here. I get really nervous about mathing in public, even though I love math. So I'm actually going to use an old-fashioned calculator, right? So you have 6 salespeople. So you have 6 salespeople. And if it takes about 30 seconds to ask those 5 did you know questions, let's say we ask each one of those 6 salespeople to ask 5 of those per day. Does that sound reasonable, everybody? Like salesperson, I'm going to give you, how about take a minute a day and you're going to ask 5 of those on one call? Or maybe you ask them in 2 calls, I don't know. But let's say we each ask one of those salespeople to ask 5 of those, okay? So they ask that, that's 30 questions here. So where I'm mathing with my calculator, that would be 30 per day, right? 30 did you know questions times 5 is 150 a week times, let's just call it 50 weeks a year. That's 7,500 did you know questions in a year. 7,500 did you know questions in a year. I'm hoping I'm mathing correctly. Times 0.2, 20% will close. 1,500 of those did you know questions will eventually become a sale. Harsha, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Okay. So
Yes.
Harsha, about how much is a line item in your business, one of your products or services about?
Close to 100K.
Okay, so normally I would take that 1,500, because we asked 7,500 did you know questions in a year, times 20%, because 1 out of 5 is going to close. That's 1,500 will eventually turn into a sale, times 100,000. You guys can use it for your business. That would be, I don't even know, 15 million or something. I don't even know if I'm mathing correctly because I'm not looking at the comma. Is that interesting to you, Harsha?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you see what I'm saying? You're going to ask your people, I don't know, a minute a day to ask 5 did you know questions. All right. Does that sound okay for you guys? Is that a reasonable amount of time? And that's an example of a predictable revenue growth because you're just asking them to swing the bat. So I'm going to pop back to my deck now. All right. So 20% of those did you know questions will eventually close. Now, one thing that's even better than a did you know question is what we call a reverse did you know question. In a did you know question, that's saying you're offering up what you do. All right. You're saying, did you know we do blank? Did you know we do blank? Did you know we do blank? Versus the reverse did you know question, it's an open-ended question. What is it that you're working on that we might be able to help you with? What is it that you're buying from our competitors that maybe we could help you with? And 80% of the time, when you ask what is it you're giving to our competitors that we might be able to help you with, or what else are you working on that I might be able to help you with? What else would you need quoted? 80% of the time, they actually answer. What else do you need quoted? What else have you been putting off that we should address? What else are you buying from my competition that I can help you with? There's a story about this woman, Janine. She was running on Outgrow, and she was in inside sales, and she had been emailing this particular customer for months and months and months, asking this customer, what is it that you're buying from other folks that I might be able to help you with? And for months, the emails went unresponded, never got an answer back. She started on Outgrow. She picked up the phone and she said, what is it that you're buying from our competitors that I might be able to help you with? And the guy that answered the phone actually said, Janine, let's get you some business. And he sent a product list of things he was buying, of 450 items that he was buying from her competitors with price lists on it. Power of the phone call, okay? So that's the power of a reverse did you know question. There's another story. There's this guy of another company is running on Outgrow, and they're a $40 million lumber company. And they have this one salesperson. His name is Derek. And Derek, he's a rock star salesperson. Derek is his W-2 from the company. It's $2 million. He sells $40 million of lumber every year, blows every single salesperson out of the water. Now, Derek started working in sales at in his 20s, in his late 20s, when the company started in Outgrow. So he didn't know how to sell any other way. So Derek was now 34 years old, and we asked Derek, so Derek, what Outgrow technique would you attribute your success to? What is the most powerful thing you do that gets you to be this, basically a rock star? This guy selling $40 million worth of lumber, making $2 million a year, right? And so we asked this question in front of, all the customer facing people. They don't know how much he's making. But they said, so Derek, what do you attribute it to? And he said, it's very simple. The reverse did you know question. What else are you doing with my competitors that I could help you with? And and he said that's how we actually asked the question. What are you doing with my competitor that I can help you with? So then we asked, so Derek, about what percentage of the $40 million you sold last year would you attribute to the reverse did you know question? And he thought about it for about 10 seconds. And then he said, I would say about 95%. 95% of his business stemmed from that question. And, we said to you, how often do you ask? And he goes, every single time I'm on the phone with a customer, I ask that question. And he said, it's so much so that if I go to hang up the call and I haven't asked the question, the customer actually says, wait, Derek, aren't you going to ask me the question? What do you do with my competitor that I can help you with, right? And so we ask it every single time. It's a really powerful technique that you guys can use. And 80% of the time, they actually answer you, okay? And so then the next step after, when you're asking these questions is, focusing on the pivot. 25% of pivots lead to a yes. But if you don't ask, you're not going to get a yes, right? So that would be, remember I said earlier, starting maybe with the word when. When can I send you a quote for that? When would you like me to send you a proposal? When could I expect an order from you on that? When would you like me to ship that to you, right? Pivot to the sale. When will you send the application? When do you want the coverage to start? When would you like us to start? Or like I said earlier, pivoting to the next call or meeting. When do you want to talk next? When would you like me to follow up? And again, get that booked while you're on the phone, right? As much as possible. Don't get off the phone without one of these two things. You're pivoting to the sale or you're pivoting to the next call or the next meeting, right? Maybe you have like an 18-month sales cycle, but you just want to keep moving things along the sales cycle by using these techniques. So I'm going to tell you a story that I'm sure probably most of you have experienced, right? So you probably experienced kind of what I'm saying. So I don't know if anybody's been in the Minneapolis airport or in an airport that has Caribou Coffee, but imagine you're going to Caribou Coffee and you order a small iced coffee or something, and maybe it's like $3. Of course, depending on what airport you're in. Certainly it's not a mocha latte or whatever those things are. That's probably like $7. But let's just assume it's a plain, simple cup of coffee that's about $3. Okay. So you're standing here, you're ordering a cup of coffee, and this is actually a true story. So ordering the cup of coffee for $3. The girl behind the register says, "Would you like a bottle of water with that?" I'm thinking, that's a did you know question, right? Like she's basically saying, "Would you like a bottle of water?" And so, in asking the girl, how often do people say yes? And she said, most of the time. Most of the time, people say yes. How much is the bottle of water? The bottle of water is $5. So, in just that one simple question, Caribou Coffee takes that one sale of $3 for a simple small cup of coffee, adds $5 for a bottle of water. The sale is now $8. They've almost tripled that revenue by just asking that simple question, but they ask it every single time. And this is not called water, Caribou water. It's called Caribou Coffee. That very simple thing. Now, everybody probably knows that $5 water is stupid, right? Like $5 bottle is water is stupid. And maybe the bottle of water is like $4 down at Hudson News. And we could go down to Hudson News and buy that, but why don't we? We don't because we're already there. It's much more convenient to do it while we're already there. That is the same thing with your customers. Don't make them walk down to Hudson News and get behind maybe, the little old lady with the little change purse counting out the dimes, although I'm kind of a little old lady maybe to some people myself. And don't make it hard for your customers. Ask them while you're there. Make it easy for them. That's just a very simple example. So what is your bottle of water? What's your secondary item that your customers could be buying from you? What is it? Okay. Here's another example of, maybe pivoting to the sale or not following up. So this is another example of somebody that was getting insulation for their house, needed some additional insulation for their house. Got 3 quotes, which I imagine maybe some of you guys have done that before. You're getting something done in your house and you go out and you get 3 quotes. In this particular example, in my friend's example, got 3 quotes and only one of the people followed up. And maybe that's happened to you. Only one of the people followed up. And so, the guy that followed up said, "Hey, I'd really like to help you with your insulation. I'm following up on the quote." And the other 2 people didn't follow up. Guess who got the business? The guy that followed up. Not only that, the guy that followed up said, "Hey, would you mind sending me the 2 quotes from the other 2 folks?" And so he did. And was that fair to the other 2 folks? Maybe, maybe not. But guess what? The other 2 folks didn't follow up, right? And so why do we not follow up on our quotes that we're putting out there? Why do we delay? Maybe we just kind of avoid it. And a lot of times we avoid that follow-up because we don't want to get the no in our ear hole, right? We don't want to hear that rejection. So we're not following up. But if you're not following up, you're not getting the yes either. All right. If we know these things, why don't we do them? Why don't we do them? Fear, right? Fear is the strongest emotion, and it's fear of rejection. Fear of rejection. We don't want to get the no in our ear hole. We don't want to get rejected because fear is the strongest emotion. It probably takes, many of us back to, I don't know, middle school or something when we asked somebody to dance or something like that. And it was the worst thing and we got rejected. It was the worst thing in the world. And we said, for the rest of our lives, we are going to avoid that rejection, that fear of rejection, right? And that's why we do it. And remember how I said that 2/3 of the work we do in Outgrow is mindset work. It's mindset work because it's hard. And sales is a rejection profession. That's what sales is. And when you think about a baseball player, if they can fail 7 out of 10 times, and you think about their batting average, and they go to the Hall of Fame, failing 7 out of 10 times. And in sales, if you get rejected only 8 or 9 times out of 10, you're a rock star salesperson, right? And so this whole mindset work is really important to do because that is hard. And that's what we're going to do, fear of rejection. So how do we do that work around that mindset, shifting that mindset? And in part of what happens is instilling what we call this acronym COPE: confidence, optimism, positivity, and enthusiasm, right? Infusing your organization with confidence, optimism, positivity, and enthusiasm. One of the ways I do that, as an example, when I'm working with a company in preparing for, we have a launch workshop. In a launch workshop, we have all customer facing people. Every single customer facing person is in the launch workshop. And that might include delivery drivers or whatever, because they're interacting with customers. And ideally, wouldn't it be great if they were asking, did you know questions, right? Even if they just ask one, did you know, right? We also do blank, whatever. So one of the things that I would do is I interview the company's best customers. And in interviewing the company's best customers, I record them. And I usually, even in 5 customers, I actually get 100 bullets of testimonials in 5 interviews. It's amazing what happens when I interview the best customers. And then in those recordings of the customers, when they're being effusive about the great things that you're doing for customers, then all your customer facing people get to hear that recording. They get to hear how unbelievably helpful and wonderful your company is from your customers' own words. That is one of the pieces of mindset work that happens, because we want to change the mindset of your customer facing people from selling to helping. All right. So we're not asking you to sell. We're asking you to help. Customer facing people, we're not giving you a quota. We're not telling you to go close deals. That's not what we're doing. Why? Because it's out of your control. We don't know if you're showing up when the person has an itch that you can scratch. We don't know if the time is right for them. It's out of your control. So we're not going to ask all your customer facing people, hey, we're going to hold you accountable to closing a number. What we are going to ask them to do is simply swing the bat. Remember, I said swinging the bat is just asking a question, right? Something like make a proactive call. Maybe your salespeople, you want them to make proactive calls. And so in asking them to help, we help our customers, and hearing all these amazing things your customers are saying about you, what they're going to start getting in here is, oh my goodness, look at this good work we do. And I'm worried about the fear of rejection, but we have stuff that we actually help our customers with, and I'm not telling them about it, right? And so part of this work, and for you guys as leaders of your organization, is beating this drum of confidence, optimism, positivity, and enthusiasm. And you guys kind of beating that drum around that as well. So now I'm going to tell you about a typical week. If you were running the Outgrow program. Let me just do a quick time check. I don't even know. Do you have a time check, anyone? How are we doing?
We're
Oh my
45,
gosh.
yep,
What are we at, Scott?
45 minutes in.
Okay, all right. So in a typical week, you would start by step one, having a huddle. Monday morning, have a huddle. And then you're going to make assignments, okay? So on a weekly basis, you ask for a quantity of specific actions. Now, ideally, every single person in your company that is customer facing is in the huddle, all right? Now, if you have a really big huddle, company, you might have to have multiple, different groups. But you have the weekly huddle, and then you make the assignments. Maybe the assignments are something like this. Okay, I would like you to make 5 proactive calls this week, ask 5 did you know questions, and ask 5 reverse did you know questions. What else are you working on I can help you with, all right? In a whole week. So basically, you're asking all your customer facing people for about 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day, right? How long does it take to leave a voicemail, right? Or how long does it take, in the example Emma gave us, it took her about 30 seconds to ask 5 did you know questions. So you're going to make your assignments for the week. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Maybe some of your people get assigned proactive calls, maybe some don't. Maybe you have a focus of the did you know questions. Hey, let's focus on this service this week, or these 2. Let's just focus on those 2. Maybe your focus that week is on let's focus on customers we haven't done work with in over 6 months. Okay, so those are the assignments that go out Monday morning. Then they go do it. They go do those assignments, and then they track it and log it, right? We have a simple web form that they log it in, but you track it or log it in a system, any kind of system. This is what ours looks like. You just log the calls. How many did you know questions? How many times did you follow up on a quote? Here's a did you know question. Okay, you log it. And then you get these great leading indicators of sales growth, because everything in Outgrow is we're just measuring swings of the bat. Swings of the bat. Because we know the more you swing the bat, sales will grow. That's why we call it predictable. So the leading indicators, this is what I send to my clients every Sunday night, right? So they log the stuff, and then every Sunday night, they would get something that looks like this with some comments from me. I'm going to draw your attention. Can you guys, you might have to zoom in on this. I don't know what your screens look like, but if not, don't worry. I'm going to read it out for you. So in this particular example, we have, these are the names of the customer facing people. Here's PC is how many proactive calls they made that week, how many did you know questions they asked that week, how many reverse did you know questions did they ask that week, how many pivots, how many times did they pivot, how many times did they ask, what percentage of your business would you say we have? Okay, this is asking for internal referrals. Who else in your organization might I be able to help like I'm helping you? External referrals. Who do you know that we might be able to help in the way that we're helping you? Okay. And so here, if it's green, it means that they hit the number of assignments that they were asked, the number of swings we asked them to make. And if it's green, and if it's not green, they fell short of that. Okay. And then this is how many new opportunities got opened up that week. What would that be on an annualized basis? How many quotes did we send out that week? How many closed? Okay, so this would be the scorecard. And then down below, this is simply a graph that shows how many in total proactive calls, did you know questions, 20 did you know questions, 6 reverse did you know questions, and so on and so forth. And then over in the right, this is the leaderboard of actions taken. So we can see that Margot took the most action, swings of the bat. And your job as leaders and evangelists right here is to just say kudos. Hey, Margot, I saw you took 12 swings that week, right? Or you could walk by somebody and say, hey, I saw you ask 5 did you know questions last week, and you've never been able to do that before. What unlocked in your head that you were able to do that? Because that focus on the positive, that focusing on success is how you get more of that, And when we're talking publicly to our people, we are not focused on people that are not doing it. We're calling out the people that are doing it, because remember, we have to work on this mindset, and we want to have that acronym of confidence, optimism, positivity, and enthusiasm. So as you call out the people that are having success because they asked the did you know question, because they asked for a referral request or whatever, when you call them out and you ask them, you can ask them, hey, tell us what you did, right? When the person shares that, not only are you celebrating the success of that person, but you're also giving that person the opportunity to expand a little bit. And the people who are hearing it are also learning. They're like, wow, look at they asked that did you know question, and look at how they unlock their mindset, right? So it's kind of twofold. You're teaching, they're teaching their colleagues, hey, look at this is how I did it. And also you're celebrating success. All right. So, and as your actions go up, your revenue will go up, right? So the more swings of the bat, this is all statistically based, the more your revenue will go up. Now, recognition, as I just was mentioning, is a critical element to the 5-step weekly cadence, okay? It's very critical. As an example, you could do a weekly newsletter as an example that might call out the people that did great things that week. Just a simple thing, you could probably use AI or whatever to just generate this simple newsletter. Because again, you're focusing on success. And the more you infuse your entire company with this positivity, the more of that you will get. You want everybody kind of high-fiving each other. Now, I'm not saying they have to high-five or anything like that, but you want to focus on the people that are doing the great work. So this is the feedback loop for predictable revenue growth. All right. So again, just as a reminder, this would be the weekly cadence. Step 1, make the assignments. Step 2, people go do them. Step 3, they log them. Step 4, you receive and share data and analytics. And step 5, you share success stories and recognition. You have these huddles, if any of you are running on EOS, you have these huddles unless you're on vacation or dead. It's just like your weekly level 10. It is an imperative part of your weekly cadence, okay? And you, as the leaders of your organization, if you look away, everybody looks away. Everybody will look away. If this is not something you value, they will not value it either. Now, I'm not saying you as the leader have to run this program, but you have to be a little bit of an evangelist for it. And it could just be a 2-second walk by somebody and share something successful, or, just shooting them an email, a little kudos, right? The little bit of that here and there sprinkled in goes a really long way. This is all based on positive psychology. Everything we're doing here is based on positive psychology, which, if you know anything about it, it talks all about perseverance and resilience. And 2/3 of this work is perseverance. Perseverance. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. That's Thomas Edison, right? Anybody know this guy? Yeah.
Anymore.
Does anybody remember seeing this picture? I think this was his draft picture. Do you think there was a little perseverance that went on in Tom Brady's world? That's perseverance. Success consists of going from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm. Winston Churchill, right? So part of what we're doing is changing this mindset so that if, let's say it's a salesperson and you've assigned them to make 15 proactive calls in a week, and you're going to say, I run my business on 3 calls a day, right? Mm-hmm. And so if they're making the proactive calls, when people, or when they're asking for the sale and when they're asking for the business, that mindset will start to be created of, okay, I've just got, I've gotten 8 no's, I got 2 more to go before I get a yes. And those of you who are sitting in this room that aren't getting a lot of no's, you're probably not swinging the bat a lot. you're probably not swinging the bat a lot. The people on this call who are getting a lot of no's, you're the one swinging the bat. And if you're not swinging the bat, you're also missing the opportunity to get the yeses as well. You're losing that opportunity to get the yeses as well. This is my, I'm gonna open up for questions in a minute, but this is my contact information. If anybody would like it, you can also use my EOS email, but this is lisa.manning@runoutgrow.com. And I am also going to share just a feedback link in the chat in just a moment. This talk that I'm giving to you is new for me, right? So I would really, really appreciate your feedback so that I can get better at giving this talk. So please feel free to give me all the feedback in the world. It's much harder to do this work for me on a webinar than it is in person, like talks in general. But I would really, really appreciate your feedback. And I'll put that chat in the link in just a moment, okay? So if you guys don't mind, I would like to make this a little bit interactive so that we can have some Q&A time, if that's okay with you guys. This is the time to ask, right? There are absolutely no stupid questions, no dumb questions at all. So I wish I had prizes, right? So a lot of times if I'm giving a talk in person, I at least have things to give out so that people are a little bit more motivated to speak up, but I would love to hear from you folks. And I'm going to just grab that link while you guys are getting your courage. Let me go ahead and grab that link and pop it into the chat.
Lisa, could you talk about how you engage and what an engagement to implement this would look like?
Sure, that's a great question. So, I don't know if any of you guys, raise your hand if you've run on EOS. Anyone? Okay. All right. So I'm not going to even talk about that because it's different than that. So there's a couple of steps before we decide to engage in Outgrow, right? There's a bunch of things we want to make sure of to make sure it works. So I typically go through usually 2 discovery calls, right? And the first one is I'm listening for enough things to see if there really is sufficient ROI to do the work. And that's usually a brief call, less than 30 minutes, to go through that. And what I'm listening for is, do you have enough customer-facing people? So for example, if you're one person and you only have one product, I might say to you, I'm not sure that there's sufficient ROI for you to do this work, so I don't think it makes sense to go to the next step, all right? But then the next step is usually we dig into the customer model. We spend a couple hours with your business to dig in and say, let's look at really what your customer model looks like and who are they, to then kind of have discussion around where the opportunities are. And then after that meeting, I would do a proposal. Now, let's say you wanted to move forward and you wanted to work with an Outgrow advisor, somebody like myself. We would then schedule a launch workshop, which is 2 to 3 months later from when you say yes, because there's a lot of work I do in the meantime before we roll it out to the whole company. And I say that because it's important. If somebody's thinking, I want to get this going right away, I say, hold on, there's a lot of work that needs to happen before in preparation for the launch workshop. Your company, specific to your company. For example, in that period, I interview staff, right? I'm going to interview some of your folks and I'm going to ask them what ideas they have, let's say for account expansion, as an example. I interview your best customers. I would interview 5 of your best customers because we want to get those recordings. And also part of that is I generate like 100 testimonial book for you that you can use in your marketing material. And some other pre-launch workshop. Then we invite all of your customer-facing people to a launch workshop. We'd have all your customer-facing people to a launch workshop. People say, wait, what? We're going to invite everyone? And I say, yeah, you're spending the money. Invite everybody to that launch workshop. Now, if they never interact with a customer, then don't. Because even if they only pick up a little bit and they do this one thing, might as well have them all come, right? So all the customer facing people would come to a launch workshop. And then after that launch workshop, then, you know, what it looks like in the beginning is we have a launch workshop. 30 days later, we have a webinar with all those same people again, because they're going to come out of the launch workshop and their behaviors, some of them might be, I'm going to let you in a little secret. If you guys are going to do this, don't tell your customer facing people this. This is just for you guys, okay? So you come out of a launch workshop and half of the people are in. They're like, okay, I'm in. The other half of the people after the launch workshop, and they're very exciting launch workshops. They're very exciting and positive. The other half are like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Now, of those other half, you're going to get some of those on board. They're going to get on board and they're going to say, yeah, I can ask, did you know questions? Or I can say, what else could I help you with? Right? You're going to get some of those to join the other 50% that are on board. But here's the secret. Don't tell them this. A third of those people are never going to get on board. They're just not. They're not going to get on board. But that's okay. That data around what I said is Outgrow's a proven system that generates 15 to 30% revenue growth. That presumes that includes a third of the people that are not engaged, right? And so then after the launch workshop, you're following that weekly cadence. And then there's this whole program that I run that happens in between. Like, for example, every Sunday night, I send the data and I might make some notes. Hey, I'm seeing this. Maybe let's ask a little bit more reverse, did you know questions this week, as opposed to blah, 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 stuff like that. And then I'm engaging regularly. Did I answer enough of your questions, Scott? Do you think there's more I need to explain?
No, that's pretty clear.
Yet I'm coaching along the way.
Okay.
What other questions do you guys have? Raise your hand if you have, how do I want to ask this? Raise your hand if you have over 3 customer-facing people. Anyone? Okay, great. So, George, may I ask you some questions? Would you mind?
Yes, now that I go off mute, yes.
Thank
Go
you so
ahead.
much.
Mhm.
So George, what kind of business do you have, if I may?
We have a software platform for creating mobile apps very quickly for enterprise. Our largest customer is Walmart, using us for um, many opportunities to improve supply chain operations and efficiency, velocity, and cost reduction. Scott may know from, well, when we were much smaller, several years ago at the CEO Roundtable, we've been able to increase the business over about 5-fold since that time. But we're now in the process of going to market with a new standardized version of this platform, aiming at other companies with supply chain requirements that can show the benefits and use several key industry authors and leaders that have come on board as advisors to introduce us into at senior VP, general manager type level at these other companies. And we're in the midst of going into that process right now and into the new year. So it's keeping us very busy. Now, we do have, I really like everything you've been saying. It's very practical, very, it's very easy to see how this can work if you execute it. You know, if we, the company that's doing execute, just waiting for you to call Sunday and then ignore it. But uh, we add some more sales bandwidth and capability. I'm looking forward to using these techniques and or giving you a call. Okay.
That's great. And you have a new service coming. So
Yeah.
you told them last week, and you think that you've already told them and they already know you do it. They don't remember.
Yeah.
I have a guy in one of my peer groups, and he is one of my favorite referral partners. I refer him in to clients because my clients love the work that he does. They just love him. And I've known him for 6 years, love him. And I kid you not, the last time I was with him in a meeting, I said to him, Josh, can you remind me what else you do? Okay. So I've known this man for 6 years and he helps, but I don't remember, right? And so you think that your customers remember these other things you do or they're aware of them, but it's not in their active memory, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you're dealing with big companies like you described, like Walmart, right? Big companies, those are great opportunities. I don't know in your particular example whether this would apply, but that's a great opportunity for who else in your organization do you know? The internal referral request. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, George. Thank you. So what other questions or comments do you guys have? Is there anything you're concerned about or you think wouldn't work in your organization?
Lisa, this is Dan O'Brien.
Hi, Dan.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Good. I saw you earlier. It's good to see you again.
Thanks.
Or hear your voice. Yeah.
I couldn't get the computer. The computer was giving me a hard time, so I came on the phone and the camera's not as.
Yeah, no worries.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, this program, I really like the sound of. It's not overcomplicated. It's not asking people to do things they can't do. I love the analogy of the, at bats. One of the things that I found is it's a compounding impact because if people get more at bats, then they get better at those at bats, right? And so their percentage, their batting average tends to go up if they take more, make more appearances, if they do it more. Anyway, so very, very nice. I look forward to introducing you to some folks that I know.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dan. And Dan, you are spot on. I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret, right? I was the one, I told you a little bit about the mindset work I had to do about asking for referral. And it was so hard for me to do. And then I come to Outgrow and I get to know Alex Goldfayn and I join this cohort. And I was like, a proactive call? Nope, I can't get there from here, right? I was like, I can't do that, right? And then I joined this cohort and then I got the mindset and the mindset shifted me. And now I'm like, it's just what I do. In the morning, I just like pick up the phone and I make my 3 calls and that's it, right? So I take my 5 minutes a day and I make my calls or whatever. And just like Dan, you mentioned, the more swings you have, the better you get at it. It just becomes, number one, it becomes more natural. It becomes easier. And then, maybe take pivoting to the sale. You may get better and better at that, right? Like Dan said, you're getting better and better as you're building the muscle. Thank you, Dan. What else do we have, folks? What other questions or comments do you have?
I just wanted to point out, I had a real aha moment when you were talking with Harsha
Yeah.
about where you were, what you were doing, whether it was raining, all of that when you got a phone call, and then comparing that with the impact that emails made. And I know I'm always reticent to make a phone call for all the reasons that you said. I've been doing it for almost 60 years, but I'm still reticent to make that phone call. And when I do, people are generally happy to hear from me and we have a good conversation and there's a good outcome. I don't know why I don't learn that simple lesson that make a phone call.
That's right. That's right. Because that's the knowing versus doing, right? So we know this, but doing it is really hard. Asking your salespeople to make 5 phone calls or 3 phone calls in a day, that could be easy. Asking your salespeople to make 3 phone calls a day, every single day forever, that's hard. And that's why that weekly cadence, the choreography of it, the systemic nature of it, the logging of it, the recognition, the success, that's what makes it work, right? Because you could just say, hey, go do it. But it's the whole program doing that weekly cadence. And you guys can read the book and you'll see that weekly cadence in there, right? Everything I said today is in that book because, Scott, it is hard. And that's why, eat the frog first. And Alex Goldfayn, he jokes, right? Alex has been doing this for 22 years. He's the creator of the system or whatever. And he'll say, making phone calls is still hard, right? Like it's obviously not that hard for him like it used to be. And getting rejected is still hard. But he says every time he gets rejected, he's like, just one more down to my yes, right? And, and that just helped change your mindset. And I think a lot of the work that gets done, like I said, 2/3 of this is mindset work and doing that work around your employees hearing your customer in their own words, actually hearing them say all these things. I mean, I don't even know how many customer interviews at this point. It's amazing what they say. It is just amazing what they say. And as I'm interviewing them and I'm listening to all these great comments they're saying, I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, these employees are going to love to hear this. They're going to love to hear this, right? Because they might not know how great they are. And I also ask them to rank all their suppliers. Where does the customer fall, in your best customers? And I'll hear number one. And you know what that sounds like to your employees to hear that? It really does help the mindset. Harsha, what do you have?
I have a question. First off, thank you. This was very powerful. As I think, as you started by saying, this is something not new to us. Everyone knows
That's right.
what you're going to say. So thank you for going through that. So I have actually one question and one probably an observation, or at least thought that's going on in my mind. One is, in the society that we live in right now, which is basically more tech-driven, all on demand, I can reach out when I need to, that kind of a mindset. Even if I call my sister these days, I still ask like, hey, are you free? The fear aspect that you called out in your presentation that we are all afraid of. First off, I think I want to know if Outgrow has kind of any idea or any statistics or any kind of observation how the society is moving towards this digital versus analog, how that program is going to affect the outcome of its efficacy. So that's the first part of the question. And the later is more of an observation for me. It's about if it will go on the other side of the spectrum, which is basically, I don't know how many people get a call from TruGreen, which I do get. Like, I'm like,
right.
I already bought services. Don't call me 50 times to tell me they can come to my, put for mosquito and plant. Like, I'm like, if I see the TruGreen, I hang up the call, like literally.
Right,
I don't want to hear you anymore. Would
Right.
that be the other side of the spectrum that could go out as you keep hitting that your out-facing or customer-facing folks are actually moving your, product reach, away from them because it's annoying to the customer?
So, they get to choose, right? In that 66% of the time, they're going to answer you in the text. It's easier for them to answer in a text, right? That's how people want to respond mostly now. So you're leaving them the voicemail and you're following it up with the text, right? So that gives them the out at that point. All right. And I'm not sure if I answered I'm trying to address the second one first, because I'm going to need some clarification on the first. Did I cover the second item, the TruGreen example? Because you're leaving a voicemail and then you're following it up with the text. And then, 2/3 of the people will respond back in some way to that text, which is what you want. A third won't, but 2/3, generally speaking, will. This is over 100 million pieces of data around these swings.
Yeah, maybe because I'm thinking in my own ecosystem, which is a very boutique type, maybe similar to maybe Emma's services, we are catering to a much higher end. Like, at some point of time, you don't want to start annoying them to kind of take the business away from them. So it's not like TruGreen services where, okay, I call them 50 times and, maybe
Yeah.
60% of them will call me, but guess what? I don't want to lose the others because they are
That's
premium
right.
customers as well. So I'm trying to think if that will, how to control that it doesn't really go too far out, that annoys your customer that was never the intent
right.
to begin with.
And that's the choreography that takes place in the huddle, right? So in the huddle on Monday mornings, you are choosing the assignments, you are choosing who to call. And that's where you can make that discernment of, hey, listen, we don't want to call these folks, it's a billion times, right? And that's where you're figuring out who to call. Where is our focus going to be? And that's where you can have the discussion around what makes the most sense. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And on the first part, so you were asking about the digital world. I think ultimately the same principles apply. Nobody's calling. Nobody's calling. You think people are calling. Yeah, you might be getting spam, like, I don't know, whatever spam is. But I'm talking about you calling for the most part. Your ideal is you start by focusing on your existing customers. You're calling your existing customers, right? And, like think of your examples. How many times are your suppliers calling you to check in on you, even when nothing is wrong? How's your family? And, keeping this relationship going, right? And so that human interaction and the relationships is still, will always be valued on some level because we're still humans at the end of the day. And selling is a relationship sport. I'm not sure if I answered your questions okay,
Oh,
Harsha.
you did. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
And I think the notion that you give an opportunity to respond in an easy way on text, if you don't want another call, you can easily say, don't call me again.
That's right. Exactly. You can make that choice.
Yeah.
And, and mostly what I'm doing when I make the calls is I'm making the calls and I'm sending the text to set up a meeting, right? That's what I'm doing to have a dialogue. In fact, here's another little secret. So if I'm making my calls on Monday morning and I've allotted, I know I have this little window and I'm, pop off to a session day or something. If somebody actually answers the call and I really don't have time to talk, this is what I say. Oh my goodness, I didn't expect that you would pick up the phone. I didn't expect you would pick up the phone. Can we set up a time to have a call? So that's what I do too. So I make sure I always get those calls in, even if I think I don't have time, I'm going to carve out that 5 minutes.
Very cool.
What else? Anything else? Do you guys see the link for the speaker feedback form? Do you guys see that in the chat?
I don't.
It's under, did I not put it in the right chat? I might not have put it in the right chat. Let me try this. Let me
I think
do
I
it.
got it.
Yeah,
You
we
see
see
it?
it. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
There it is.
I would be super grateful if you guys took a moment to do that before you jumped off the call. Or I don't know if you also have something, Scott, but I would love the feedback.
I saw Christine pop on there. I think we did have a questionnaire.
Okay. I'm sorry if I'm confusing things.
No, this is more important. We're all set? Yeah.
Yeah, no, the speaker feedback form is a little different.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Very good. Well, unless there are other questions, we can fill that out. And I've learned a lot, and like you said, you didn't tell us anything we didn't know, but you told us why we don't do them. I really resonated with that situation with Harsha earlier, and the fact that, dealing with rejection is tough, but I've long ago figured out that, the more frogs I kiss, or swings at bat I have, the more times I miss. Well, that's just another one in that column, and I'm just that much closer to a good one. So, thank you for reinforcing all of that. And I can see why this resonated with you, because it is similar in a lot of ways to what EOS is. It's a It's a programmatic way of thinking about what should be a very simple thing and establishing some framework and some jargon and some accountability around those simple things. And there's nothing more valuable than that. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for dedicating yourself to becoming certified in this and for sharing it with us.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You guys have been a great audience. And Scott, you know, I love you, right? So I always love to see your face. And thank you for letting me share my time with you today.
Well, bless your heart. Thank you. And I'm sure we'll have some more sales out of this talk today.
Okay. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great day. I'll stay on in case anyone has questions after. Okay.
Good.
Thank
Hey,
you.
thank you. Thank you.